Before we pursue the report recommendation to create more content in curriculum areas that parents rate as weak, we need to answer why what we have now isn't working for them. Second, maybe older kids, or many older kids, are engaged with educational media, just not as defined by the research. Pursuit of media in the interest of a passion or curiosity, resources like YouTube and Google, supplants consumption of packaged media that's designed to teach something. Interestingly, when the survey asked parents about their own educational media use, the examples given were of self-directed, connected learning, looking up a recipe, getting health information, answering questions. In some cases, kids feel they learn from media even when it has no educative intent. A German research institute that's affiliated with the International Children's TV Festival, that I'll talk about in just a moment, asked 7 to 10-year-olds around the world which programs they learned from. Over 50% of the American boys talked about friendship and sharing lessons in SpongeBob. Now, I'm not saying it's educational media, but I am saying we make meaning from media based on our own needs. Earlier this week, I was a nominating juror for the International Children's Television Festival, Preach-Ness, and I watched enough television to make the American Academy of Pediatrics faint. Over 200 programs from around the world in 5 days. Let me describe 3 that I found wonderfully educational, and ask you whether you think they meet the study's definition, good for your child's learning or growth, or that teaches some type of lesson, such as an academic or social skill. Canadian kids designed and built playgrounds for their communities, and yes, the kids themselves used the tools, like the power tools themselves. Irish teens documented one day in their lives using user-generated video. And a Brazilian telenovela dramatized the different challenges faced by twins, one white and one black. Now, by and large, we in the US don't make shows like this. When an American kid turns on the television, how often do they see any clue as to where they are or who they are? How often do they see news or documentaries made for them? By the way, no American company has submitted to the festival a nonfiction program for any age beyond preschool. So here's a conundrum. Most US educational kids' TV is curriculum-based, but in the German study that I mentioned, American kids barely mentioned learning facts from TV. German kids, who get their own daily news show, plus magazines and documentaries, listed factual learning first as what they learned from television. When the US gets anxious about children's time spent with media, and we get more anxious than any other country I've found around the world, we add education. Other countries look to draw their content closer to the audience. I think the Children's Television Act provides a cautionary tale about the intersection of policy and content. Broadcasters treated the 3-hour educational programming mandate as a ceiling, not a floor. Kids got the minimum. When broadcasters called their shows FCC friendly, it was clear that regulators and not kids were their primary audience. Educational TV isn't necessarily quality TV. And while the government can demand shows with educational goals, it can't demand that the shows be any good. After a few innovative efforts at the start, broadcasters found they had no incentive to invest financially or creatively in their EI shows for older kids, and the ratings flatlined. Yes, educational content on free media is important, but it's condescending and wasteful to give only mediocre content to those with the fewest resources. Perhaps it's time to revisit the option of commercial broadcasters supporting public service media instead of airing unwatched programs. By contrast, when Australia sought to enhance children's TV, the government mandated home-produced content, but it also created production grants and tax credits. Producers competed for funds and commissions, and Australia now has a global reputation for high-quality, small-E educational media. There are a few important questions I want to address that this study didn't ask. 1, do parents see and value learning from media beyond explicit curriculum, like 21st century skills like collaboration, communication, perspective taking, or lateral thinking? As mentioned, Carla mentioned Williamsburg, that's a good example of that. 2, do parents see and value meta learning from media engagement, media literacy and critical thinking, logic, programming, or technology skills they gain? 3, does parental experience result in higher opinion of educational value? Minecraft scored poorly in this survey, but nearly half of the parents didn't feel they had enough experience with it to rate it. Video games got low marks for social skills learning. Do gamer parents better see games' potential for collaboration or communication? So how can we help parents see and extract the educational value in a wider range of media? Good tools exist, like Common Sense Media, like Children's Technology Review. We need a wide range of resources, though, so parents can find the ones that match their values and their media matrix. While the study recommends engaging in an independent organization to code media for educational content, I'd be concerned about creating one box where what fits inside is educational and the rest is not. This doesn't consider the needs of the child or the whole child view of learning. It also can stifle innovation, I fear, and lead to regression to the mean creatively as producers chase a stamp of approval by producing to the rubric. In closing, content creators also need to communicate better why their products are educational. I counsel them to talk about what they put in, their teaching philosophy, and how they mean for the product to be used, rather than promising or suggesting outcomes. To say what you are teaching is a statement of intent, and parents can decide whether that intent works for them or not. But learning is a complex process with a lot of external and contextual forces that media makers can't control. I'm really looking forward to the discussion.